Yes, let's.
Yes.
Got
Dylan,
it.
Adam of Fermentor, welcome to 69 Face of Rock. How are you guys doing tonight?
We're doing great. We're happy to be here.
Very happy. Nice to see you, Mark.
Tell me, how did the two of you meet and how did you form the band?
Well, we were related actually by a marriage that was now dissolved. Those people have divorced, so we're not related by blood, but we're related by a marriage, and so I've known Dylan, our whole lives pretty much.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think it was a fateful dinner party when I think I was like 14 or 15, and Wally was like, "Hey, you like metal, right? Like, come to my car." And he showed me, because like I think I was into Iron Maiden, like Slayer, but then he showed me like stuff that to me just sounded like nonsense. Like I couldn't even wrap my brain around it. I'm sure it was like cephalic carnage or just something.
I was thinking that at the time it might have been Cryptopsy. I might have shown you some Cryptopsy. Definitely Meshuggah. I remember that clearly. Catch 33 by Meshuggah. I remember showing.
But my entire entry to sort of crazy metal was through Wally.
So when did you decide to form a band?
I guess, so our first release we did in 2008, which was I graduated high school, and it was literally I was going off to college, and me and Wally started jamming, and we're like, hey, let's see if we can record something before you go. So that kind of lit a fire under us, and
yeah, I was working at a studio at the time called Battlefrost, and we met up every Sunday for a month and wrote a song in a day, and then after the month we recorded it all, and that was our first demo, which you can find on Bandcamp.
Mm-hmm. When you formed the band, was there any kind of a plan, goal in mind as to how you wanted to sound, how you wanted to be?
No, I think we just knew we loved jamming together, and we just continued doing that. And even when I was living in Los Angeles and he was living in San Diego, he would drive up or I would drive down, and we would just meet and play, and whatever came out of it we had. And we really didn't do any, like, we never threw anything on Craigslist to try and find other members or anything like that. It was always just us doing our thing, and whatever came out of that, that's what we did.
We did immediately notice though that we had some sort of chemistry, or like we did immediately when we started playing, realize like, oh, we like the stuff that we're doing, or we like playing with each other, or oh, these ideas are forming easier than we figured. So we definitely like noticed our sort of musical chemistry from the beginning, but no real like plans.
Yeah, no, definitely we didn't have a plan.
And why only being an instrumental band, which is very unusual in this genre?
I think we were just happy with what we had. The music we were making, we thought was interesting and unique, and we never really felt like another voice was needed, whether an instrumental voice or an actual voice was needed to convey what we were trying to convey. The music that we were making, we thought stood on its own, and we've just continued to build on that approach. So our music now is very full and doesn't really feel like it needs anything else. It just lives on its own.
Also, I love sort of parameters, and I feel like we thrive really well under parameters. So when it's sort of understood that, okay, these are the only two elements, you're sort of naked out there. It's like, if you're playing a drum beat, it better be a cool drum beat. If you have a guitar riff, it's the only guitar riff we're gonna hear, so it's better. You can't rely on a harmony or another. It's like the guitar riff has to be cool in a vacuum. So it sort of pushes us to be as sort of creative as we can.
We were also always in both in other bands. I was in a band with 6 other people, and he was in several bands with other people, and so we had a lot of outlets already that were sort of traditionally formatted. And so Fermentor always was kind of this special thing that we had, that was set aside from those other projects, where we could kind of experiment, just the two of us, and see what we could do with that.
Well, I definitely enjoyed the uniqueness that developed out of this idea and the concept.
Thank you.
The name Fermentor, what does it mean to you? Where did it come from?
Yeah. I'm gonna throw it to Dylan because I really like how he explains it.
Yeah. So I feel like the name Fermentor sort of has a similar relationship to us with all the names of our songs because it's instrumental, where we sort of because there's no lyrics, it gives us this amazing ability to sort of project all these cool ideas, stories, meanings behind certain parts. So it's like Fermentor just comes from when we were like younger and we loved metal and we loved thrash and we loved like all the imagery we loved is like just we're gonna shred so hard we're gonna melt people's faces off, and that's just the sort of rhetoric we liked. So I think we imagined some mad scientist in a with some cauldrons and Bunsen burners fermenting things out of people, just kind of dark and gross and crazy. And it's funny because now at Fermentor, I don't think of that at all. I just think of our band, where it's like our songs, they have meanings to us. Like, for instance, Return to the Darkness is the title of a song off this album. And what's cool is because there's no lyrics and it's not set in stone, it's like Return to the Darkness comes from like a lyrics or a poem that Wally wrote, but it's like, to me, Return to the Darkness can have a different meaning. So it's like it allows all people to project their own meanings onto our song titles, band name, album. You know what I mean? I just like that there's a hole for you to sort of insert yourself into the art.
Also, speaking of art, our most recent album, Meld, if you look at the artwork, we're presenting 8 jars of sort of mysterious materials, and that's sort of a nod to our name, which is sort of like we're fermenting these ideas, these musical creative ideas, and we're kind of creating something from nothing with that. And so the fermentation process is kind of in reference to our musical process, and we tried to nod to that, as I say, in our artwork for this latest album.
And speaking of inserting yourself into the art, like I've watched your videos several times, and every now and then I get a feeling that I'm hearing things that are not there, and that's a cool thing. It's like,
I love that.
Yeah,
that's great. Yeah, I said many times that I feel the vocals are implied to our music, and I think that anyone who's like, oh, how come you don't have this or you don't have that, it's because in their head they can hear it with that and it sounds nice. And I like that they can have that interaction with our music, and we don't need to sort of spoon feed that. We can present what we have, and people can sort of layer on whatever they'd like in their head, or and I've been saying this too, if people want to take our music and add vocals or add whatever instrumentation they'd like and send it to us, we'd love to see what people got. Yeah, we'd love to see what people come up with.
Also, Wally is really good at he has like a pretty extensive pedal board where sometimes he's putting things on that I'm not aware of that just add like little bits of texture. And there's songs where I think like, are you doing like some sort of modulator pedal at that point? And he's like, oh no, that's just like there's a little bit of delay and it has like a tail on it. So you're like just thinking, so it's like oftentimes in all these songs, there are like little things. I'm like, wait, what is that thing? And it's really just his good planning of like, ooh, okay, so we'll put in this, like little, it's like, oh, this will just have a little bit of chorus. You don't even notice it. But it's like me, who I know the song so well. I'm like, oh, wait, it sounds like there's a thing, it's like there's just enough there to make you think there's something there, and your imagination kind of fills the gaps, and it's cool.
That is. So when you write your songs, what kind of emotions are you trying to code into your music?
Yeah, it's so interesting. I think a lot of times we're not thinking of it from that perspective when we're writing. I think it's a very gut approach to writing the music, where this happens and then this happens and then this happens, and it just sort of informs how the whole thing flows, just by the original sort of idea, kernel of idea that we have. But we also notice in our music, as it has changed over the years, that there is more emotion kind of seeping in to our recent music, where you can hear some more introspection and reflective moments in the music, and not just brutality all the time. I think our original stuff was very brutal, very powerful. I still think a lot of our stuff is a lot about feeling like you can overcome adversity. I feel like a lot of our music has that, for me anyways. And so I think it's not really an emotion, but kind of a feeling. Also, I do think that a lot of our music has a Zen-like quality for me. I don't know if anyone else has experienced this, but sometimes our music, I feel like it just becomes like very meditative, and like in its rhythmic sort of exploration. And it's maybe a little more of that kind of just musical exploration than it is emotional exploration, if that makes sense.
That does make sense.
Also, to piggyback, we do like things like we do like when things sound evil. It's like that. I mean, that's sort of like an emotion, but it's like whenever we're playing, it's like if we move something and then we move it down a bit and it's got like a sort of like a like an evil, sinister vibe. I don't think because we necessarily are into those feelings or emotions, but I just think like when a song like when you have a riff that sounds really creepy or evil, like we both just really think that sounds cool, so that'll often put us in a place where we're like, okay, so we're already in this sort of evil sounding macabre-ish vibe, so then it's like the adjacent things, it's like, okay, well then do you go energy or do you go like and also because we've been playing so long, we've done so many crazy brutal parts that I feel like we're much more comfortable with, hey, this part isn't as heavy, this part isn't as metal, but like, like a good part is a good part is a good part, and we're sort of fleshing out ideas.
I think it can almost feel a little more like storytelling than it can feel like emotional encapsulation. Sort of in retrospect, like when you go back and listen to it, you're like, okay, I can see a sort of arc here, a story arc in our music. Yeah. Also, I apologize for the music playing. I hope it's not too distracting. Yeah, is this terrible?
It's fine. It's perfect. It's
okay.
Perfect.
Okay, great.
And without vocals present, what do you think gets more exposed in your music? What takes the front stage here?
Well, one of the things we love about Fermentor is how little there is to hide behind. So every drum hit, every pick attack, everything is clear and available for the listener to interpret themselves and be able to insert themselves into the music in a way that I think is very immersive, instead of sort of like playing at someone. It's sort of like they're kind of inside of what we're doing, and I think that not having vocals helps do that, because I think when you have a vocalist, it kind of puts you at a distance, like you're being talked at or sang to, and so with us, it's sort of like you're in the the morass with us.
All right. That makes sense. At this point, what is a challenge for you musically when you write these songs? Like, not necessarily a challenge, but what takes the most time in order for all those little pieces to agree into a song?
I always want to play something I haven't played before. I don't want to, even if it's a cool fill, I don't want to play a fill that I've played in another song. I don't want to have the exact same beat I've played in another song. I always want it to be something I haven't done before that I'm pushing. So, it's like sometimes I will, intentionally not choose the riff that I believe, or choose the beat that I believe the riff needs, because I think, okay, yeah, that's the decision I would make 10 times out of 10. So is like, if we always make those same musical decisions, we're always going to end up in the same place. So I'm always struggling with kind of noticing when I'm repeating patterns and making the same choices and thinking, okay, wait a minute, here's an opportunity for me to try something different, so that's something I struggle with.
I think too, we're both so specific about what we like and what we prefer, and we will agonize over the tiniest details for extended periods of time, and we are both very serious and passionate about these minutia, to where sometimes a song will just kind of pour out of us, and other times songs are just just agonizing over months to try and iron out tiny little details that only we will hear, probably. But that those kinds of things are really important to us, and also coming to a collaborative agreement on these things where we both feel like we're happy with the result, and not sort of like one person just making all the decisions and the other one just going along with it. Like, we're both trying to come to agreement on the things that we want in our music.
But that is a philosophical difference between me and Wally, is that I usually want to just go with someone's idea. Like, let's choose someone's vision. And Wally always wants to like find a middle point. You know what I mean? Like, well, is there some way where we can both get it? And I'm always like, no, I don't want to do that. Like, let's choose, you know what I mean? So that's just something that we philosophically will often struggle with, because it's like, especially as a drummer, I'm often utilized to realize someone else's vision. You know what I mean? And so like, I don't mind that. And for instance, the album cover, that is Wally's vision. That was, that was his idea. That was, I mean, he worked on it, and I gave like a little bit of input, but essentially like that was his idea. And I thought it was great. And I also just loved how passionate he was on it. So I was like, all right, Trusty, let's have this be the album cover. And of course it looks awesome. Mm-hmm. So
yeah, that is an inevitability where we will have moments where one of us has a stronger vision than the other, and so that can lead us down areas where maybe we're not having to come to an agreement because one person is sort of like, well, I know what this should be, or I know what this should not be, which is normally where I'm at, which is like, well, I know it's not this thing, so let's try and find what it could be.
Yeah. Your sound. How do you get your sound? What is your setup? What kind of setup are you using?
Yeah, so for the guitar, I'm using a 2 amp setup.
Yeah, wait. This is video, right? Like, they'll see this. You can actually.
Yeah, so just over my left shoulder here, you can see my guitar stack. That's a triple X head on top of a 212 Gens Benz cab on top of a 212 orange cab. Behind Dylan over there is a 8x10 cab, an Ampeg fridge, the classic. There's 2 more heads up here that I sort of alternate between, which is a PV PV Bass 6 and a SVT3. So I kind of switch between those depending on how I'm feeling for the bass side. On this record, I had an additional guitar stack that was another PV Triple X on top of a 1960 Marshall cab. Shout out to Trent for allowing us the use of his head for that recording and for many other things. But Trent Tilton. So I essentially had 3 stacks: a left guitar stack, a right guitar stack, and the bass stack in the middle. So if you listen to the record, there's a phantom center that occurs from the 3 creating an amalgamation of sound in the center, and it's 1 guitar take. So all the songs, save for little touches here and there, is 1 guitar take all the way through. If you ever hear it pan, that's me defeating one of those amps to create the feeling of it moving from one side or the other.
Tell me about.
And then I just
the what?
Tell me about that board behind you with writing.
Oh, up there?
Yep.
So that's actually a little peek behind the curtain there, because those are, Dylan referenced a poem I wrote for Return to the Darkness, and that is that poem. Okay. So at one point I made a little demo of Return to the Darkness that had vocals, just to see, what it might be, and I did like it. So maybe one day we'll get one of our friends to sing over it, but that's what that is. And there's many whiteboards all around the room filled with, scrawlings of musical notation and lyrical content and all kinds of stuff.
Dylan, you wanted to say something and I kind of stopped you in the middle of it, so go ahead.
Oh, no problem. I just my drums are on the album. It's a Yamaha recording custom, 2 bass drums and a timbale on there. But mine's pretty au naturel, but I just wanted to mention that because that's
what kind of pedals do you use? Drumsticks, pedals, what's the sizes? Give us everything.
I like DW5000, like the heavies. I don't like the feather click, 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 you know what I mean? I need the full the full dynamic.
Yeah, Dylan hits super hard with his kicks. Like whenever I try and play on his drum kit, it feels insane.
I also have the spring tension like all the way up. And my cymbals are kind of a hodgepodge, but I have a very nice Orion Mega Bell ride that I really like. It's actually kind of cool because it's like tingy, but then if you hit it really hard, it gets washy. So it's kind of like the best of both worlds.
He also uses 2 hi-hats, so he has a hi-hat on his left and another different type of hi-hat on his right over there, which is really cool. That's a sort of newer thing, right, for you?
Yeah, it's a couple of years old.
Yeah.
But I do that because when you take your foot, when you're doing your double bass, your hi-hat then is just completely open, so I kind of set up another one that's like a little bit more closed so that I don't have to sacrifice the hi-hat sound that I like when I do double bass.
And yeah, this is the first album where he's used timbales. And it's also the first album where I've used a 7-string guitar. So all our albums before this were on a 6-string. This album has 6 and 7-string guitars. Also, just to elaborate on my rig, I have a pretty substantial pedal board situation, 2 pedal boards actually, that I'm using to manipulate all of those stacks and to create all that texture and modulation that Dylan was referring to earlier.
The funny thing is, I think I did see a picture of one of your pedal boards, and automatically it made me think of Trevor Rabin back in the 80s, because he had the most massive pedal board back in the day.
that is a very flattering comparison. Thank you. I would love to be compared to Trevor Rabin. Thank you very much for that.
Amazing writer.
Yeah, wonderful composer.
You just made this guy the owner of a happy heart.
That's very good. But also you did the music for Gone in 60 Seconds.
Yes, his 2 Sistine Chapels.
Yeah, amazing player. Amazing.
Yes, yes, exceptional. Also South African, is he not?
Yeah, he is.
Yeah, he's South African. We're also South African. Well, Zimbabwean and South African.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
You mentioned being involved with other bands, so tell me about your involvement with Atheist, Cynic, Beekeeper.
Yeah, so we're both in Beekeeper. Wally's the bassist. I'm the drummer still, but I'm also the songwriter in Beekeeper. And writing wise, it's sort of the opposite of Fermentor, because all the Fermentor songs are sort of born out of improvisation and sort of in the moment kind of things. But Beekeeper, it's just me sitting down on my, in a chair with my guitar for like a year, and then I'm like, hey, I wrote some songs. Beekeeper also has an album coming out New Year's Day, Blazing Star, mixed by this guy. Sounds amazing. Mastered by Jens Bogren. And then Atheist, I've been the drummer for about a year. We're gonna do lots of touring next year. We're writing a new album. I'm not involved in Cynic, and we were just on tour with Cynic. But love Cynic. Love Paul Masvidal, great guy. But yeah, we're gonna do some touring next year. We're literally like writing so much cool stuff. All 5 members of Atheist are like big songwriters. We all have lots of ideas. We're messing around with other people's ideas, so we're like really in like writing mode, and just very excited. I also do other sort of session gigs. I'm going to be on the new Void Ceremony album, and other things. But I'm just a busy boy. I love playing the drums.
Yeah, I'm in another band called Trash Axis, and our album just came out October 31st, which you can stream on Spotify and various other streaming sites, our Bandcamp as well. And that's a 7-piece band. It's sort of an experimental punk metal, just crazy combo band. But you can check out that album as well. And I'm also a producer and an audio engineer. So I work with a lot of bands as well on the side, just mixing and mastering records. So if anyone needs anything, hit me up.
So after doing all of that, playing with other bands, what kind of a musical perspective do you return with to Fermentor?
Yeah, I'm lucky enough to learning all those Atheist songs has been the biggest challenge of my life, and has made me a better drummer, a better musician, a more open-minded musician. At first, you hear some of these like Atheist riffs with the drum parts, and they're so weird, and all this, like sometimes my brain would be like, no, you know, but then you listen to it and you realize, oh wait, this is actually really creative, or no, this beat is accenting the riff. You're just not listening properly, you know. So it's really just opened my eyes to really try to think outside the box and kind of push through that awkward stage, because you sort of have to have that weird awkward stage in order to really create something new and special. But it also just, you know, it's like you go around the country and then you're like, oh, I miss my homie.
Also, I think Fermentor serves as kind of a an experiment shot, like a laboratory for us to experiment and try and generate unique concepts musically. So it's almost the opposite, where it's like with Fermentor, we're sort of conceptualizing all these new things and trying to do stuff we've never done before. And then when we go and play or work with other bands, we're kind of bringing those ideas and experimentations along with us. But it is a you know, it gives and takes on both sides.
Excellent. Your new album, Meld. Tell me all I need to know about this.
It's an 8-song album. We recorded it at Singing Serpent with engineer Ben Moore. We recorded it live, so we were both all our equipment mic'd up at the same time, and we were in the same room, and all our energy and our timing. There's no click that we recorded to. There's nothing is completely replaced. There's no amp emulations or anything like this. It's all very au naturel. And organic, and really encapsulates how we think we sound live and all that kind of energy. It was mastered by Dave Otero, the extraordinary mix and master engineer who's worked with Archspire and one of my favorite bands, Fall of Carnage, in Colorado. And the artwork was actually just a photograph, which was photographed by our friend Rai Radakovich. And then we worked on that art along with him to make the album art that you see now. You can get the album tomorrow. It drops December 1st at fermentorband.com. You can order it there, and you can also stream it on Spotify, Apple Music, or any other streaming service.
Also, we have 2 videos out with tracks from the album, You Fool and Return to the Darkness. And those are videos taken in the recording studio. So the video that you're watching is literally us recording that song. We didn't like then go over it and film it. It's like that's literally a video of us recording the song on the album that you hear. So we just went in and tried to film everything because we knew it was all happening live. So it's like you might as well just capture it while it happens. And we will have another music video coming. And if you stay tuned, we'll have more details for that if you stay on our social media. But there will be 3 videos, but tomorrow it comes out and we have our big show at the Brick by Brick with a bunch of great bands. We're stoked.
And speaking of live, you just mentioned you have a live show coming up. Will there be any more shows, possibly a tour? How will you promote this album?
Yeah, we will definitely be playing more shows as much as we can. You know, as we discussed earlier, we're both pretty busy, so we're doing our best to try and plan ahead and make sure that we can responsibly agree to a tour. But we absolutely want to come to every town that we can and spread Fermentor across the globe.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, sort of seeing where, because next year I'm going to be touring a lot with Atheist, so sort of seeing where those chips fall and then work around it, so you know what the schedule looks like. But you know, we want to play Fermentor for you.
What feedback are you getting so far?
Yeah, we've had a bunch of good feedback from people. It's always a crapshoot, right? We've definitely had stuff in the past, or you know, people can be cruel on the internet, or sometimes people, you know, I think Dylan put it really well recently, which is people just don't get it sometimes. You know, it's like Fermentor is very niche. It's like what we're doing is not easy. I think it's not easy listenable music. It's not pop music, you know, but it's also, we do, by not having screaming and stuff like this, there is less of a barrier to entry to Fermentor. And I think a lot of people that like metal like us, and I think a lot of people that are new to metal like us because it's sort of an introduction without, you know, some of the more abrasive elements. And our music is very musical, for lack of a better word, and very listenable, or we try for it to be. But I think the reaction we have been getting, to answer your question, is mostly positive.
Yeah. People liking the music, people liking the production, You know what I mean? But
Yeah, that's been really nice on this one. People have been complimenting to the production, which I personally really appreciate because, like we were talking about agonizing over all the details of the arrangements of the music, we agonize over all the details of the production. Everything that we do is agonizing. So we really appreciate it when people compliment things like that because it's just nice to be validated and know that we're on the right track to making stuff that people like.
Great. Finally, what would you say is the secret to your musical relationship?
That's a great question. What's the secret?
Right.
Open-mindedness. I think also just having a sense of humor kind of helps and like being able to be playful because it is a really playful thing that we do. And so I think just like being able to fuck around and try and make something and not have too much preconceived notions of what it is that we're doing and just kind of keeping our hearts and our minds open to whatever kind of comes up. I think that's a big part of it, but I don't know. I haven't really thought about that before.
also maybe that, the secret is that there is no secret, and it's like there's no like shortcuts. It's like we're two dudes that are willing to sit in a room for hours and grind it out until we figure it out. And it's like, it's not the most glamorous, you know what I mean? It's like you put in all this work for little trickles of gratification to come back, but it's like we do it because we do it, and we're not doing it because there's some prize at the end of the tunnel or something like that. We love to play music, and that's more important than anything else, I guess.
I think also we just love to please ourselves. So when we make something, it's like if it makes us happy, then we've achieved what we were trying to achieve, and we're not too often considering anyone else. So it's like at the end of the day, if we've made something that we're stoked on, then we've achieved something. But as Dylan said, it's just we work our asses off on all of this. So everything that we do, we just work really, really hard on. And like he said, there's really no shortcuts.
Sounds good. Well, thank you so much for speaking with me, and good luck with the new album. And I hope the show tomorrow is going to be a great one too. And I wish I was there.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mark. Hopefully we'll come to Chicago soon.
Fermentorband.com for
Yes.
everything you need Fermentor. Fermentorband.com.
That's right.
That sounded like Gene Simmons.
Well,
that's good.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Good night.
Thank
Thanks,
you,
Mark.
Mark.
Have a great one.